The Boston Tea Party stands as a pivotal event in American history, a dramatic act of defiance that ignited the flames of revolution. On that chilly December night in 1773, a group of colonists disguised as Native Americans boarded British ships and dumped chests of tea into the harbor, sending shockwaves across the Atlantic. This seemingly isolated act of rebellion would become a defining moment in the struggle for American independence, a symbol of colonial resistance against British rule. The Boston Tea Party was not merely about tea. It was about fundamental principles of liberty and self-governance. The colonists, long accustomed to a degree of autonomy, chafed under increasingly restrictive British policies. The Tea Party, therefore, transcended a simple tax dispute. It represented a rejection of British authority and an assertion of colonial rights. This act of defiance resonated throughout the colonies, galvanizing support for the cause of liberty. The British response, swift and severe, only served to further solidify colonial resolve, pushing the two nations closer to the brink of war. The Boston Tea Party, therefore, served as a crucial turning point, a catalyst that propelled the colonies toward independence. The legacy of the Boston Tea Party continues to resonate today, a testament to the power of ordinary citizens to challenge injustice and fight for their rights. It serves as a reminder that the pursuit of liberty often requires courage, sacrifice, and a willingness to stand up for what is right, even in the face of overwhelming odds. To understand the significance of the Boston Tea Party, one must first delve into the historical context that led to this pivotal event. The seeds of discontent were sown years earlier, rooted in a fundamental disagreement over taxation and representation. The British government, burdened by debt following the costly French and Indian War, sought to impose new taxes on the American colonies to replenish its coffers. The Sugar Act of 1764, which levied taxes on sugar and other imports, was met with resistance from colonists who argued that they should not be subjected to taxation without representation in Parliament. The cry of no taxation without representation became a rallying cry for colonial opposition to British policies. The Stamp Act of 1765 further inflamed tensions. This act required colonists to purchase stamps for a wide range of printed materials, from newspapers and pamphlets to legal documents. The Stamp Act was seen as a direct attack on colonial liberties, and it sparked widespread protests and boycotts of British goods. These early acts of resistance demonstrated the growing rift between Great Britain and its American colonies. The colonists, accustomed to a degree of self-governance, were increasingly unwilling to tolerate what they perceived as unjust and oppressive measures imposed from afar. The stage was set for a showdown, and the Tea Act of 1773 would prove to be the tipping point. The Tea Act of 1773 proved to be the breaking point, pushing the colonies to the brink of rebellion. While seemingly a measure intended to help the struggling British East India Company, the act was viewed by the colonists as a cunning attempt to undermine their principles and impose further control over their affairs. The Tea Act granted the East India Company a monopoly on tea sales in the colonies, allowing them to bypass colonial merchants and sell directly to consumers. This angered colonial merchants who saw their livelihoods threatened. Moreover, the act retained the hated tea tax, a symbol of Parliament's right to tax the colonies without their consent. The colonists viewed this as a deliberate attempt to weaken their economy and undermine their principles of self-governance. The Tea Act, therefore, was not simply about tea, it was about control, autonomy, and the fundamental rights of the colonists. It represented a direct challenge to colonial liberties, and the colonists were prepared to resist. The arrival of ships laden with East India Company tea in Boston Harbor in late 1773 presented a critical juncture. The colonists, led by organizations like the Sons of Liberty, resolved to prevent the tea from being unloaded. The stage was set for a confrontation that would have far-reaching consequences. A Night of Defiance. December 16, 1773. The night of December 16, 1773, dawned cold and clear in Boston. A sense of anticipation hung heavy in the air, a mixture of apprehension and resolve. The fate of the tea ships and perhaps the future of the colonies hung in the balance. As darkness fell, a group of colonists, some disguised as Native Americans, gathered in secret. Their target, the British East India Company ships anchored in the harbor laden with chests of tea. Armed with a mix of determination and outrage, these men, many associated with the Sons of Liberty, boarded the ships under the cover of darkness. With swift and decisive action, they began unloading the chests of tea, tossing them overboard into the icy waters of the harbor. The act was one of calculated defiance, a symbolic rejection of British authority, and a powerful statement of colonial resistance. The Boston Tea Party was not a riotous affair, it was a meticulously planned and executed act of protest. There was no violence, no looting, and no damage to property beyond the destruction of the tea. The message was clear: the colonists would not be subjected to unjust laws and taxes without representation. News of the Boston Tea Party spread like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of controversy on both sides of the Atlantic. The colonists, emboldened by their success, prepared for the inevitable British response. The die was cast, and the path to revolution had begun. The Sons of Liberty, architects of rebellion. The Sons of Liberty were not a formal organization with a rigid structure or membership roster. Instead, they operated as a loosely organized network of patriots, united by their shared commitment to defending colonial liberties and resisting British tyranny. Their ranks included merchants, artisans, lawyers, and ordinary citizens from all walks of life, drawn together by their shared ideals and their willingness to take a stand against what they perceived as injustice. The Sons of Liberty played a pivotal role in organizing and mobilizing colonial resistance, using a variety of tactics to spread their message and rally support for their cause. They held public meetings, distributed pamphlets and broadsides, and staged dramatic protests to draw attention to British policies they deemed unfair and oppressive. The Boston Tea Party stands as a testament to the Sons of Liberty's effectiveness in mobilizing public opinion and challenging British authority. Their actions on that fateful night, while daring and confrontational, resonated deeply with colonists who shared their grievances and yearned for greater autonomy. The Sons of Liberty, through their unwavering commitment to liberty and their willingness to challenge the status quo, played a crucial role in shaping the course of American history.